Another way that we can bypass the default behavior of respecting the order is if we provide default values for the parameter. So for the values, if we provided a default value when we define the parameter, then this parameter becomes optional. Okay, so the way we do it is that when we define it here in the parameter list, we say equal and give it the value. Okay, now for example here, so let's say here for our add function, we can give default values of 0. So in that case, we can treat them both as optional. So we send no arguments at all, or we can take send only one. So in that case, it will be positional. So the first argument goes to the first value, and then 5 would be a would be 5, and then b would take the default value, and which is 0. Now we can also use the keyword argument to send only b. So in that case, a will take the default value, and then b would take the value that we send here, which is 5. Okay, so let's try this out first, and then we try having only one of them as the default value. So let's go back to this here, this call here, this function. So I want to call it add. Okay, a equal, I'm gonna change the definition so that it will have default values like this, and in that case I can call the function with no parameters altogether. Okay, or I can send it with one parameter. So if I send one parameter like this, it will automatically go to the first one. If I want to send it to the second, and then it will go to b, so I have to use a keyword argument, and in that case the default value 0 will be set to a. Okay, now what happens if I have only b that is optional? So in that case, that will give me an error here, because there is one argument, at least one argument that we have to send, because a is not a default, doesn't have a default value, so we must at least send one value. So this one would go fine, but if I try to go here, so let's say I'm gonna comment this out, at least one needs to be sent, and then if I try to go to the second attempt, it will give me an error because a must be sent. So we can ignore b. B is optional because b has a default value, but a doesn't have a default value, so it is not optional, so we have to send it. Okay, but we can always bypass the order and then send it like this. Now if I wanted to change the order, I wanted to give a default value to the first argument and not to the second, now that would give me an error. Non-default argument follows default argument, so that's the error here. Okay, you cannot have non-default arguments following a default argument. If you want to mix them up, you have to put the default arguments at the end. Okay, and that's actually something that we can see in the print function. So if you go to the documentation here to see how the print function is defined, what we've been doing, we've been only using one argument here, which is that first argument. Now that you can see there are more to do with the print function. So sep for the separator. So this is when we send multiple values to be printed, the default separator is the space. We can change that if we want. Okay, and the default end of the line, that's why the print acts like print line that you know from Java, because it concatenates as /n at the end. Then other arguments, we don't have to worry about them now. Okay, so they are optional because they have default values. But these are the ones that are like easy for us to see at this moment. We can just change that default by sending here. So if we want to use an underscore as a separator, we can send it like this. If we want to choose an end, like a slash, if we want to print in a loop and not have the printing happen in new line every iteration, we can change the ending from /n to anything we want to say here. For example, it's just a double dash. Okay, so let's at least try one of these here. So let's say I have my list. So if I just for v in my list like this, if I try to print them one by one like this, it will print everyone in a new line, right? Every value will be printed in a new line, right? Now, if I want to change this behavior and I want to all of them to be printed in one line, I can change the ending. So the end, instead of leaving the /n that is the default, I can have the end as just a dash or a space or anything I want, or a comma. All right. Now the separator, the default separator is not relevant here because we are only sending one value to be printed. Okay, so if I say the separators, if I say the separator equal, say, comma here, the separator is not relevant here because that only separates when we concatenate in multiple values. Okay. If I want these to be separated by commas, then I should change the end, not the separator. Okay, so how is that different? So if we saying print multiple values like this, like A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and then, so it will concatenate them by default over a space. If I want to concatenate them over a comma, I can do that here. All right, so this would be relevant when we are trying to print multiple values like this. And you can see it printed it in the same line because this didn't end with a new line. All right, so that was what happened in the function 1 session. Thank you.